Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
I'm Jessica Faust.
And today we are talking about some questions to ask an agent that you might never have been told that you should be asking.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because I feel like on the blog and on panels and on YouTube, we've talked so much about when you get the offer of representation, what questions should you ask? But these are the questions that have come to us, and some of them came to us in our webinar.
I think that we every time we do a video on this topic, we talk about the business side of things. And I think that call is way more than that. I think that call is a personality test. It's a, do you guys get along well? Is there a connection there as well as business? So I think it all has to be gauged, and it's a tall offer to serve up to an author, especially in the midst of what is an incredibly exciting and maybe even stressful time. So hopefully this helps sort of give more direction to questions you should feel more comfortable asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally this phone call is the beginning of a relationship. Yes. And it should feel that way a little bit. And I guess we want to say it's a little bit of a testing ground too, to whether, it's a first date. It's a first date.
Made that analogy many a times, but I think it is a business, at the core, it's a business relationship, and it should always be professional, but also there's a lot of like emotionality tied into the work we're doing, and making sure that there's an equal level of respect and, connection to the work and to each other even is important. So we have 4 sort of general topics, and I'm sure it will inspire questions from there.
Yep, absolutely. You want to pick which one we're going to discuss first?
So yeah, the first one I think is particularly great is career goals. I think we don't often, agents typically ask the author, where do you see yourself going from here? And I think it's perfectly fine for you to flip that around. Like,
I think you should.
Yeah. Like, where do you see your list going from here? Do you see yourself primarily working in this genre over that genre? Do you think you'll be staying with your agency? Things like that. They're perfectly fine questions to ask, especially in an industry that moves around so much too. So like, if something did happen where you left your agency, what happens to me? Things like that. Those are questions that you get to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say this about 14,000 times in this video, but this is a business partnership.
Yeah.
And when you go into a business partnership, you want to have an idea of, you know what your goals are. And as an agent, I'm interested in hearing what your goals are, but you're taking me on as a business partner in your career.
Right.
So I think it's important for you to also ask, what are my goals? I mean, if you're writing a suspense, are my goals really to do picture books and this is just a stopgap to get there? Or are my goals to build a list in suspense? Are my goals to represent adult? Are my goals to represent a variety of books?
Right. Well, the first time, sorry.
No, go on.
I was never asked this question before until I offered representation to the super talented Valerie Bowling, and she is a brilliant question asker.
I was just going to say, Valerie could probably give us a whole list of YouTube videos.
I think Valerie should do like a question asking workshop. For real, like questions that everyone should be asking and how to formulate questions, because she is so good at it. But she asked me, like, you've learned so much about me through this call, but I want to hear about you. Like, where do you see yourself going? What are your career goals? And it made me think about what my goals are, and especially like in my picture book list. I definitely want to be one of the top agents in picture books. And I think that's a great thing to convey to a picture book client particularly, because it's showing my investment in the genre and where I see my list going, and that I see them being a part of that. Yeah. And I think it's a good way to get a sense of not only their investment, but their, like, where they see you fitting into that.
Yeah, because I think it's super easy to get a false impression of an agent by just looking at them on paper.
Right.
I know that I have represented a ton of cozy mysteries and have some incredibly successful cozy mystery authors on my list.
Right.
And because of that, I have often had authors make the assumption that that's what I do. I do cozy mysteries, that I don't represent other types of books. And yet I do. I have women's fiction, magical realism. I love dark books. And, you know, I love dark suspense. I love thrillers. And a lot of my fiction authors, even my own clients, have no idea that I do nonfiction. And a lot of my nonfiction authors have no idea I do fiction. So I think it's important to get a full sense of
who you're working with.
Yeah, and also how does my book fit into your goals?
Right. But also, too, most authors that I've spoken with on representation calls have some aspiration to write outside of the book that I'm offering on.
Right.
So do you do that? And will I still fit into your career goals if I did try to pursue that?
And what happens if I don't?
Right. And these are all questions that it's very important, I think, to know upfront, because it is a potential path for your career that you should at least have in the back of your mind and know about and think about. And whether this agent is going to be the one that helps you get there, that's basically what you're looking for in that call.
And keep in mind, and I will probably say this a million times in this video, but there's no right answer to these. You know, if you have aspirations of also writing, you know, women's fiction, in addition to the picture book manuscript James is offering on, if whether he does or doesn't do women's fiction, or has or doesn't have aspirations to do it, doesn't mean he's not the right agent for you. It just gives you perspective that if you go down that path, this relationship might change, or you might need to rethink things, and that's all fine too. You don't need to find the agent that's perfect for now and future you as much as you need to find the agent that's perfect for now who's willing to work with future you.
Right. Can that agent too, if you do want to work in women's fiction, can I help you do that? Can I maybe connect you with someone at BookEnds? Can I free you from this part of the contract to pursue it?
Right.
What would be the steps that we take?
Yep.
So.
Yep, absolutely. So yes, definitely. And I think you brought that one up, and I guess thanks to Valerie.
Yeah, I think it's a good general topic too, because it opens up so many different points of conversation.
And one we don't get enough, a question we don't get enough.
Right.
Actually, all of these questions are questions we don't get enough. But.
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe the next one that would be a good, more umbrella topic to cover would be allyship.
Yes. Yes. Allyship is very important. And a topic that I think many BIPOC authors, LGBTQ authors, authors in the marginalized community think about, but are afraid to ask about. You know, again, you see an agent on paper, you have an idea of who that agent is from their social media and their website. But I have been asked this question, and I think it's an important question to ask, which is, you know, not are you an ally, because I don't think that's a question any of us can answer or should answer, but really, you know, how will you represent me as a marginalized author, as a Black author, as a trans author, you know?
Well, I think that we are in an industry where a lot of things can seem performative. Mm-hmm. So are they doing the work, and will they do the work for you? That's what you're looking to gauge here. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, especially on social media and the sort of the times we're living in, to parse that out, like who is doing this because they feel they have to, and who is doing this because they want to, and they are doing the work for that. So asking questions, very pointed questions, you are allowed to ask that will get you the answer you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, don't be afraid to say, well, you know, how do you think you will handle things if I feel my editor or my publisher is acting with a racial bias or flat out making racist comments?
Yeah.
You know, can I count on you to be my ally in a situation that may make you uncomfortable? And how, you know, what would you do in that situation? You know, what's, you know, if I want to write only lesbian characters, will you support me in that? You know, or are you going to be an agent who says, well, maybe that's too much, can we add more straight characters?
Right.
You know, I think that you need to know that. Now, you might not necessarily, an agent may not necessarily know how to answer that, but I think that you can trust your gut in how they react to the question might be just as important as the answer they give.
Yeah, agreed. And again, I think the way we sort of broke this video down, it opens up. They're not pointed questions that we're giving you, but they are topics that open up conversation. So
Yeah.
I think don't be afraid to broach these topics with an agent.
Yep, absolutely.
You actually touched on our third one, which is how, like, conflict resolution. How does an agent step in? How do they support you? How do they resolve issues that you might be having? And you did touch on that in our last one, but I think it's a good one to broach with an agent. Like, have they had any experience doing that? Or
yeah, and I think this can come, very specifically when it comes to allyship. But I also think it can be very important in things like cover choice.
Contracts.
And
negotiations in general.
Yes. I mean, if I hate my cover as an author,
right,
and my editor says, but it's beautiful, are you willing to go to the mat for me?
Right.
And then I think also, like, what if we disagree? So if I hate my cover, but you and the editor love it, how might that play out? Have you ever had a situation like this? I think this is a good question to ask. Have you ever had a situation where? So if you're afraid to ask the direct question involving yourself, put it out there. Have you ever had a situation with an author who faced racism? Have you ever had a situation with an author who hated her cover when the publisher loved it? Have you ever had a situation where you and the author disagree about edits? I think that could be a great way to phrase a question that allows the agent to talk about an experience in a way that gives you a real understanding of how they might handle things for you.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think it's just a good, we're looking for, when we're on that call, you're looking to find, is this person the right advocate for me? And I think all of these questions sort of lend themselves to that broader check yes or no type situation. But I don't know where I was going to go from there.
I think you did great. That was perfect for me.
Okay. So yeah, we hope this was helpful.
No, we have one more.
Oh, we do? What was it?
Money.
Oh, yes. Okay. My bad. I didn't write that one down.
You didn't write it down because it's so the let's never talk about money world that we live in.
Yes. That's
so funny. So, yeah, I mean, and I think we can't talk about money without talking about the hashtag publishing paid me.
Yeah, so publishing paid me it's a hashtag on Twitter. It was started on Twitter, and it's since become, I believe, a full resource on documents and websites. Started by L.L. McKinney, which basically highlights the pay disparity in publishing for people of color, specifically Black authors and creators in general.
Yeah, I think that anybody who hasn't heard of Publishing Paid Me, and even those who didn't, would not be surprised to know that the publishing pay discrepancy and problems align very much with the rest of corporate America. That Black authors, especially Black women, are paid less. And what happened in the hashtag was that authors at all levels were willingly reporting what advances they were paid. And it was really a beautiful coming together of the community, actually, the sharing of information that doesn't happen enough anywhere. But, if you are an author of color, I think it's really important to bring up this hashtag to your agent. What are your thoughts on Publishing Paid Me? It could be as simple as that. Again, just to open the conversation. But at the end of the day, this is a business. And you may have written this book for the love of writing and the love of writing this book. But let's face it, we all want to make a living at this. You as the author, we as agents, this is a career step for us and us together. And we can't make those career steps without talking the very real subject of money. Now, I will tell you honestly, if you ask me what kind of advance you can expect or I think you'll get, it is a guessing game. It's like being a fortune teller at a carnival. I mean, I really...
there's no actual way to predict that.
No, I can tell you what I'd hope to get. But I think what's more important is not finding out, well, how much will I get paid for this book? Because there is no predicting that, but more, how will you fight to get me the most for this book?
Right. And even on a more agreement basis, like, how are you getting paid? How much are you getting paid? Those are questions that you absolutely should be asking. And it's typically outlined in a contract, but you should feel comfortable talking about it in the call too.
Yeah. Yeah. But don't be afraid to talk about, your agent is negotiating on your behalf. So how are you going to ensure? And what if, you feel the publisher is offering less because of my color or gender identity? How will you handle that?
Agreed.
So I think that's a really important conversation that everybody should be having with a business partner. So don't be afraid to ask it. And again, thankfully, because of Publishing Paid Me, you have sort of an easy way of saying, first of all, are you familiar with Publishing Paid Me? Because if any agent is not familiar with it, I would be concerned. And what are your thoughts on it? That's just an easy way to start the conversation without asking very specifically about yourself, if that makes you uncomfortable.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, so I think that in a nutshell, those are the questions that in all of your searches about questions to ask when getting an offer of representation, you've probably never heard.
Right.
So we hope that we've opened the door to conversations that are worth having with an agent.
Yes. And conversations that could really help you in determining who is the best fit for you in your work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who are you most comfortable? That's another big thing. Who are you most comfortable having these conversations with? Because these are going to be conversations you should be having with your agent for the rest of your career.
Right.
And if the conversation about any of these is really awkward and uncomfortable, that could be a sign right there.
Right. And especially if you're in a situation where there's multiple agents that you're talking with, who gives you that comfort level that you would rather, I don't remember the word, but rather continue on with.
Yeah, because there will be more and more potentially awkward and uncomfortable situations as your career goes on. And, having that person that you can have those talks with is really vital to a strong partnership.
Agreed. So we hope this video was helpful. If there are any other topics that you think your fellow querying authors should be asking about, please put them in the comments.
Yeah, please. Everybody will appreciate it.
Right. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we hope to see you back here next time.
Bye. Thanks.